Hello everyone and welcome to episode 31 of our Raspberry Pi series, and in today's episode we're going to be installing Wiki.js on our Raspberry Pi. Now we're going to be using the same methods as we normally do on this channel. If you guys have watched our previous episodes, you'll understand what I mean. We'll be using Docker and in particular using Portainer to install through a Docker Compose stack, and that will install the Docker container onto our Raspberry Pi. As long as you've got Docker installed, Portainer, and you're using a Raspberry Pi, then you'll be able to follow along with today's episode. Just before we get started, if you guys can hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell, you'll be notified of any of our new uploads. That would be greatly appreciated. If you guys can also hit that like button, it'll just let YouTube know that our content is being watched and it's appreciated, and it will display it to more people. So to start things off today, we're just going to have a little look at Wiki.js and what it's all about and how you can use it, and then we'll go on to installing it and then configuring it. So this is Wiki.js. It's the most powerful and extensible open source wiki software, according to its title and its website. Make documentation a joy to write using Wiki.js's beautiful and intuitive interface. So quite a few companies are using this. If you scroll down to the bottom, you see it's quite widely supported by Cloudflare, DigitalOcean, GitHub. It's on GitHub, obviously. And so there's quite some big companies that are using it. So it's obviously well supported and it's going to last. So it's worth installing and using. So this is what it looks like. It will look a little bit like this once you have it installed and you start using it. So it's just like a bit like Wikipedia. You can put all your documentation in here. So for instance, you've been installing some stacks on your Raspberry Pi, or you've been finding information on your Raspberry Pi. Now you can store this inside this wiki so that you can quick reference it in the future. Documentation is very important if you are technical minded and you do a lot of technology and do a lot of configurations and you do a lot of stuff with Linux and things like that, especially if you're coding. It's a good place to store all of your content if you want to reuse it in the future. So just coming down the page a bit, it just tells you a little bit about some of the features. There's a few more features that it has that you might want to look at. It's good for teams and things like that. So if you're working in an organization or in a business, you can have different members have access to different stuff, which is pretty good. It's got some really good editors in there, some markdown, some plain text. So obviously, if you want some, just put some snippets of code in there, things like that, you'll be able to put it in the correct format, which is really useful. You've got a visual builder, so you can do this is what you see is what you get kind of interface, which is a bit like WordPress. So you can drag and drop elements around the page. Wiki text, which is coming soon, so it's not quite there yet. Obviously, if you keep this up to date, then the new features will be added later on. So it's fully open source. So that's another great thing. You can see it on GitHub. So you can have a look at the source code, you know what it's doing. And if you know my channel, you know that I'm an advocate for open source software and it's worth using. You can integrate it with over 50 plus applications and integrate it with AWS, things like that, Azure, Google Cloud, Dropbox, Facebook, and many more, no doubt. So obviously they're asking for sponsors here. That's fine. If you want to sponsor the organization, you can. You can self-host it. That's what we're going to be doing today. And that's it. So if you guys are ready, we're going to go straight into installing this now on our Raspberry Pi. So today we're going to be installing this Linux server Wiki.js Docker container from Docker Hub. It's had over 5 million pulls and it's updated 5 days ago. So it's worth using. Linuxserver.io is someone who we recommend on our channel. We use a lot of their containers. Now, if you scroll down the page, you can see that it supports ARM32, which is our Raspberry Pi. And it gives us this Docker Compose stack here that we can copy and paste. If you would like to get a copy of that, in the description below is a link to our website, which you can copy and paste from there and put it into your stack and just edit the fields as needed. So we're going to copy this from this website right now. And then we're going to open up a text file and we're going to paste it in here. So we'll just leave that there because we're going to be using it in our next step. So what we're going to do first, we're going to SSH into our Raspberry Pi. If you guys are on Windows, you can use Putty. If you look on our website, and I'll leave a link in the description below, there is a post on how to use Putty on Windows. But in today's episode, we're using Ubuntu. So we're just going to pick up a terminal session from here and we're going to connect. Now I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. Okay, so now we're going to log in with our SSH command. So SSH TACP for port 1984, which is our custom port, our custom username that we set, and our IP address. Now, these fields may differ for you. If you followed along with our Raspberry Pi course, you will understand why we're using these custom different sets. But obviously, if you guys are just using out of the box, you can just use Pi and you won't have a custom port. So we're going to press enter on there, and we're going to put in our password. Okay, so now we're in, we're going to clear this out. So if we go back to our stack now and have a look, we're going to need two paths to create today. We're going to have the config file and we're going to have the data file. Okay, so first of all, we're going to create this config file. So we're going to come out of here and we're going to go, we have an external hard drive on our Raspberry Pi, so we're going to install our Docker container onto there, so our data. So we're going to go to that external drive now, which is an SRV. And if you list out by ls, the contents of that folder, you can see the 3 drives that we have. Right, so we're going to go into our drive, which is, if you press tab, it will complete the rest. And then if you press, I think it's 7, that's the drive I'm using. And if we list out that drive, yes, you can see my Docker apps folder. So if you guys go into where you store your Docker apps or wherever you want to install the apps to. Okay, so we're going to go into that Docker apps folder. And we're going to clear this out again and press ls to list out. Right, you can see my other containers that are in there. So in here, I'm going to make a folder. And I'm going to call it Wiki.js. Okay, and I'm going to go into that folder. And I'm going to create 2 folders in here. Okay, so one's going to be config. So make directory config, and then going to make directory data. Okay, so you can see both of them folders there, and you can see the permissions are under the user 1 user, which is how we want it set. So your permissions should be under whatever one has access to Docker, so make sure your permissions are correct there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into config, and we're going to use the pwd command. I'm just going to clear this out first so you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to go pwd, print working directory, to get the absolute path. And we're going to copy that. I'm going to open up our notepad. And in this config part here, we're just going to replace this path here. So anything on the left of here is outside of our container, and anything on the right is inside. So we're basically mounting, okay, that config folder to the internal config folder so that it can read the data in that folder, so it can use it for the configuration files, the data, etc. So the next thing we need to do is find out the data. So we're going to go cd double dot to go up a directory, and then you can see that we have our 2 folders there again. Now we're going to go into our data folder. And then we're going to do print working directory again. And we've got this absolute path here. And the reason why that failed the first time is that it was capitals. So it's case sensitive. And then we're going to minimize that again. And then just this side of the colon here, which again, as I said to you, is the outside of our container. Okay. Is our file path that we want to put in this. So there's our absolute path in there now. And it's linked to the data folder. So this port section here is port 3000, okay, is linked to the internal port 3000. Now, if you guys are using 3000 for any other Docker containers, you can change this left side, which will put it to a port that you are not using. So just to double check that you're not using that port already, we're going to come back into our browser, and I'm going to go to Portainer. I'm going to log in. Okay, and I'm going to click on our local bit here, and then containers. And just on, if you go to all down here, make sure all your containers are showing. You can see what ports everything is installed on. All right. So I can see that port 3000 isn't being used, so we can use that. So that's fine. So what we need to do is on the left-hand side now is go to stacks, and then go to add stack. And then in here, okay, we're going to put Wiki.js, just all one word, no spaces, no capitals. And I'm going to go down to our text editor, and I'm just going to copy and paste that from there. And I'm going to paste that into this area down the bottom, this editor. And from here, okay, we've already checked all the fields now. We know it's right. The only 2 things that you guys are going to need to know now, okay, before we complete this, is obviously if you guys are in a different time zone, you need to change that to your time zone. I'm in London, so that's what I'll be using. Now you need to know your PUID and your PGID. So if you go back into your SSH session, and we'll just clear that out. So if you just put ID now and press enter, you can see the UID and the GID. Okay, that's your group identifier and that's your user identifier. So you guys will need to edit this to match your GID and your UID. So my UID is the 1001. So UID, like if you go back into your Portainer, UID is the PUID, it's the same one. And the PGID is the GID, which is there, okay? So these got to match. If you guys aren't logged into the user that you normally use with Docker containers, you can just put you can put ID and then the name of the user, okay? So like Pi, for instance, and it will give you the correct ID. So if you guys are using the default Pi one, you can see it will be 1100, so you won't need to edit that at all. So I'm just going to minimize that now. And we're going to change these fields. So mine was 1001 and it was 100. Apart from that, everything else is correct. I know that that port's not being used. I can scroll down to the bottom now and I can click on deploy the stack. So this might take a little while to deploy. It's grabbing that image from Docker Hub, be pulling that down to your Raspberry Pi, and it will be installing it and configuring it all for you and mounting your drives to the internal drives. So just be patient with this and it should complete soon. Okay, so now that's finished, we're going to go back into containers, and you can see it now in our left hand side. It is there, Wiki.js. We can click on this little log button here and just to see how this is installing. So sometimes it'll take a little while before you can connect to it. Just check the logs and make sure that it's finished installing and setting up all the configurations. So as you can see in the log, it's setting up the app folder and it's fixing the permissions. So we just got to wait for this process to finish and then we'll connect to it. And as you can see now it's completed and we can browse to our port 3000 where it's stored. So we're going to go 192.2.5. So that's our Raspberry Pi. You guys put your Raspberry Pi IP address in there. And then we're going on port 3000. And here we go. So we're now at this setup. So we can put in an administration email. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to add a password. And under site URL, you can put anything you want. I'm just going to put wiki.local wiki.local. Obviously, we're installing this on our Raspberry Pi, so we'll be using this from within our network. Obviously, if you want to connect to this outside of our network, we will use WireGuard to connect, and we can do it from there. I mean, you can also use NGINX Proxy Manager, and you can set this up on a domain if you wish to. We're not going to be doing that today. We're just going to be installing this and having a look at Wiki.js. So we're going to untick telemetry, and we're going to click install. So this is going to finalize your installation. Obviously, if you guys want to install this on a VPS server in the cloud, like with DigitalOcean or Linode, you can connect to this anywhere around the world, and you can actually use a domain with this too. So now that we've installed Wiki.js, in the next section, we are going to look at how to use it and set it up so we can use it for our needs. Okay, so now you need to put in the email address and the password that you set in the setup. Make sure it's correct. And then use the password. And then you're going to click login. So this is logged in, it's successful. So we're going to create, we've got two different tabs now. We've got create a homepage and administration. So we're going to click on the first one, create a homepage. So this just sets the editor for the default homepage so that you can use it. For this purpose, we're going to go with the visual editor. Keep it simple. And we can give the page a name for the home page. We're just going to call it home. And this is our home page. You guys put whatever you want in there. Set the locale to whatever you want. Obviously, I'm English, so I'll put mine to English. Do not include any leading or trailing slashes. So the path's home, that's fine. So it just shows you in the directory structure where you want it to be. You can add tags to it too. So I can put home as a tag. And you can have as many tags as you want in here. And we're going to click on scheduling. So this section allows you to schedule when you want it to be published. And you can select a date. You can start on and finish. Then in the next section, you've got scripts. So you can have custom scripts set to initiate, okay, which we're not going to use today. And then you can have some custom CSS, which you want to put in there to style the pages. So we're going to go OK on that now. And this is our home page. And then we're going to click create. So now that we've created that home page, we're going to look at how we can structure this site navigation on the left-hand side so that we can add our different sections. So we're going to go to our little cog icon here in the top right-hand corner, administration. Click on that. In the left-hand side here, we're going to go down to navigation. And what we're going to do to get this to work is we're going to click on custom navigation. And as you can see there, we've got our home section that we created first of all. So we're going to create two more different sections. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to say we're in an organization and we need to set up two different sections. So we're going to have a computer laptop section and we're going to have a networking section. So this is for the documentation for them and obviously so that you can hand that documentation down to anyone else who wants to step into your shoes as an administrator. So to do that, we need to click on add and we're going to click on link. And under where it says label, we're going to add a header title there. So we're going to put computers. And this bit here controls the icon. So if you click on the material design icon to reference here, and then under the search box here, you search for whatever icon you're looking for. So we're looking for computers. And if you hover over that icon, you can see it gives you like a little tag. Desktop-classic. So we can use that now to create the icon for that. So we're going to remove that from there and put desktop-classic. And you can see the icons appeared there. Okay, so that's our first section. And if you scroll down here, you can see where it says target type. Okay, so we want this to be a page. So we're going to click on page. So we haven't created that page yet. So we're going to click on select page. And then go /page and then select. And when we go to click on that after, we can create the page from there. So down here, you can set up the authentication. So if you wanted to have certain groups that have access to certain information, you can lock this down to them groups. So for instance, the IT department can have access to the documentation. For now, we're just going to leave it visible to everyone. And we're going to click on apply. And we're just going to create that next section, which is networking. And then we're going to need the icon again. So we're going to come up here and put router. And we're going to use this one here, which says just router. So we can come back here. And router. And there's our icon. Okay, so we're going to click down here again. And where it says target, we're going to hit page. And we'll leave it visible to everyone again. And then apply. Alrighty, so we've done that. We can come out of here and back to the home page. So here you can see our new menus. If you click on computers, you can see we get the option to create a page now. So under create a page, we're going to use Visual Editor again. And we're going to give it a title. And we're going to give it description. And there you are. So it's got our home and then /page, which we set before. And you can add tags to this as well. So we can go computers, administrations, etc., laptops, etc., etc. And then if you click on OK, and there you go. So we now have our new section. So how you can control the submenus, which I'll show you in a minute what I mean, is by using headers. So we're going to click on here and click on header 1. And then we can have Office, don't know, PC 1, and then you could have whatever documentation was for that PC. So you could have Windows 10, etc. And there you are. So we could have Office PC2 Linux. So you can control these with headers. So we're going to come down here and we're going to have computers, and we can use header 2 for that, and then we can have laptops, oh, add a header 2 to that. Okay, so then we're going to click on create. And as you can see here, now under this section here where it says page contents, you can see we have the list of, this is our header 1 and these are our header 2s. And that's how you would control the page contents menu, which is great for quick reference. And when you click on that, it will take you straight down to that section. So also in here, you can see this comment section here. So you can have that so that anyone in that organization can add comments to that device or computer, which is great. So if we just click on edit page again, so here at the top, you have the toolbar, which controls all the formatting of the document. You can add images from here, external links, etc. Currently, it doesn't support adding YouTube videos, things like that, but according to their website, that is in production. So that should be added at some point in the future, which is great if you want to store documentation of YouTube videos, etc. So if you click on Insert Assets, from within here, you can add different images and things to your documents, as well as PDFs, etc. So to add assets, you would come here on this right-hand side and you click Browse, and then find the folder or the file that you want to upload and click on Open, and then click Upload. And there's our image that we've added. Also coming soon here, you can fetch remote images. So look forward to that feature being enabled. And then here you have image alignment, so you can put it in the center if you wanted to, etc. Left aligned, right aligned. So now to insert that into our document, you click on that asset and you put insert. And there you go. You can see our dashie from last week's episode. And then to finish that off, click Save. And then if we return to our Wiki homepage again, and you see you have computers, and here is our computer section here where we can store our documentation. And we also have our lovely page contents here to navigate through that Wiki document. Okay, so this networking page, I didn't select page when I exit it, so you can see it's just blanked out. So if you guys get that and you need to re-edit it, just click on this cog, go back to navigation, and then click on our networking section, and just make sure down here it says page, and that we select page / networking, and then click select. So by doing that, you'll now be able to create that page. So if we apply and go back to our home, and then networking now works, and we can create the page. And we're going to use the visual editor again, and we're going to call it networking. Bit of a long description there, and then tags, networking, administration, that will do, and then click OK. And networking documentation, and then we'll add a header 1 to that, and then you can add your routers list, etc. Switch lists, and so you can have Netgear, ASUS, and switch again, Netgear, Cisco, and then by using our headers we get to control the flow of that document. So these two are header 2s now, and then we can click on create. Okie doke, and you can see here now page contents. We now have router and a switch list, and we have our computer section and our networking. So that's how you set up the navigation and the page structure. So now we're going to look at the settings. So there's quite a lot you can do in here. If you click on general, you can change the site URL, the title of the site. You can add a logo, which will change up here on the top left. You can add your company and organization name, etc. It's all quite self-explanatory, really. You can turn off comments as well if you don't want them to be left by any users. You can change the locale. You can add navigation here, so you can change how the file structure is and how you want it to be used. Let's go pages. So it shows you the amount of pages that are currently in your wiki, and you can visualize and things from here. Then you've got tags. So obviously if you tag things, easier to find content. You can change the theme here. So the theme section seems to be coming soon, so it's still in development. This is where you add your groups and your user groups. So if you've got different sections or different people that you want to access different sets of content, they can. So we've got analytics. You can integrate other analytics software into it so you can manage it better and see what is working, what is not. Google Tags, Azure, things like that. Stat counter. These are all external services that you can integrate. Authentication. So you can set up authentication here, and you can allow people to sign up if it's an open wiki online. So it's like if you were doing a Wikipedia type thing where you wanted external people to have access to that information. They can sign up and register if they want to, and they can become a user and edit, etc., and have different permissions. The comment section. You can have a Kismet as well, so you can integrate external APIs to stop spam and control spam, which is useful. Some extensions that you can add on, so you can add Git and a few others from there. And then rendering. Search engine. So from here you can configure how you want the search engine to behave and which type. You've got Elasticsearch, AWS, etc. Storage. So storage is all about backing up your content as well. You can back up to AWS, S3. You can back up to Azure, DigitalOcean Spaces, Git, etc. This is to keep your stuff all backed up and safe. You can also use SFTP and S3 obviously on AWS like we've said. Here you've got API access, so you can integrate API applications into there as well. You can set up mail for notifications and things like that using SMTP. You can add extra security here by following this. Obviously, we're using this on a local IP address, so we don't really want to set up any sort of HTTPS, things like that, the way it is. If you were using this on the World Wide Web, for instance, on a public VPS, you would want to lock this down a little bit more, use SSL without a doubt, HTTPS, because you want to make sure that your connections are secure and that when you're opening your password and things like that, it can't be intercepted by a man-in-the-middle attack. Here is your SSL that I was talking about, so you can configure it in here. You should be able to use free open SSLs, and you need to look into that. This is your system information. Just tells you that obviously we've installed it on a Raspberry Pi. It's got 4 cores, 3.75 of RAM. So it's using SQLite and it's using Node.js. Under utilities, under authentication, you can set up public and private keys if you need to. You can set the guest user. If you want to keep private, you can turn off telemetry, etc. You've got developer tools, flags, graphs. And of course, at the end here, you can contribute to Wiki.js if you feel like you want to support the developers and to help the project keep going from where it is now. So as you can see, Wiki.js is a fantastic application. It is great for developers, for technical enthusiasts, as well as businesses. It can be used to store any documentation of any type. You can categorize it, tag it, and you can put it into different sections, and you can also control access around them sections. So I hope you got benefit out of today's episode. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, as well as the notification bell to be notified of any of our new uploads. If you hit that like button as well, just lets Google know that our content is liked, and it will show our content to more people. In the description box below, you will find links to today's blog post. And in that blog post, you will find any of the code that we've used today. You can copy and paste that into your own stacks, and you can use that in your SSH terminal. Also, in the description box below, you will find links to hardware that we recommend that we've used in our entire Raspberry Pi series. If you guys use any of them links, we get a small bit of commission, and we thank you for using them. Also, we'd like to thank anyone who has donated to our channel, as well as our Patreons. Thank you very much for your support. If you guys want to support our channel, you can donate to us on PayPal as well as become our Patreon. There is links in the description below, and we thank you for all of your support. So all that's left for me to say is thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.